James Numbers here, and welcome back to another episode of the Political Freedom Fighters podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be interviewing my first unaffiliated candidate in a while. But the difference is this time, this unaffiliated is going to be on the ballot, I think. And this is for a local race. This person is running for, Graham County Clerk of Superior Court as an unaffiliated, and I think she's the only third option on the ballot. So, with that being said, I want to introduce to all of you Miss Rhae Millsaps. How are you, ma'am?
I'm terrific. Thank you.
All right, my first question is, who are you and what do you do?
I am Rhae Millsaps, and as you said, I am running for the Clerk of Superior Court here in Graham County, North Carolina. And I currently am working at Elders Ace Hardware here in Robbinsville, which allows me the freedom to do the things that I need to do for my campaign running as an unaffiliated candidate. So I'm actually a project manager, client success manager by profession. And so I'm just taking a little bit of a reprieve and focusing on my campaign.
That is awesome. So let's talk about your history.
Absolutely. What would you like to know?
I guess I would like to learn about both your personal history and your history to why you became an unaffiliated.
Okay, absolutely. So my personal is I live here in Robbinsville, Graham County, North Carolina, and I moved here, let's see, in May of 2022. I moved from Nevada to Braselton, Georgia, to here in 2022, as mentioned. And I married Mitchell Millsaps, who is a lifelong resident of the area. He was born and raised here. I live on a farm, 24-acre farm. We had cattle until just recently. We have 7 dogs, a variety of such, cats, chickens, you name it. And right now we're raising an orphan squirrel. My career has been in corporate up until recently. As mentioned, I took a break from corporate to reach out and do something different with my life, something I think that I can add a lot more purpose to and fulfillment, not only for myself, but hopefully for the people of Graham County. Um, why I decided to run unaffiliated was really an interesting chain of events. So when I turned 18, I registered Republican. I've always been Republican until I came to North Carolina. And when I got my driver's license here and I changed my name, somehow or another, when the Department of Motor Vehicles took my information, they put me down as unaffiliated. I was unaware until December 2nd that I was not running as Republican. Rather, I was running as unaffiliated, which, interestingly enough, has kind of been a positive. You know, I've met a lot of wonderful people on both sides of the local government, whether it be Republican, Democrat. I'm finding that many people are actually shifting to an unaffiliated status because of the fact that they find it hard to support either party. So in a long way going around, that is how I wound up being unaffiliated, how I am the only unaffiliated on the ballot, and I will be on um, the general election ballot November 3rd. I was able to obtain 293 signatures on the petition that was required to allow me to run as an unaffiliated candidate.
All right, that's actually awesome. So,
Yes.
what is the Graham County Clerk of Superior Court, for those that don't know?
Graham County's clerk of court is what we refer to it often here. The individual is a high-ranking office in the county, and that individual is responsible for ensuring that court cases are heard fairly within the Graham County court system, whether it be a Supreme Court or Superior Court um, um, trial, or it be a civil trial. The individual is responsible for ensuring that that courtroom is run effectively and efficiently, and that everyone in there has a fair opportunity to be presented before the judge, jury, and or counsel. They also ensure that the clerk of court office is run effectively and efficiently, and that um, various warrants are prepared and eventually, you know, presented to the individual that the warrant is being written for. So, you know, they need to be sure that they work very closely with the sheriff's department. They need to work very closely with, you know, all of those offices that are local government to ensure that cases and justice is served properly.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. So, I guess my next question is, since you did say you were initially going to run as a Republican, any thoughts on the Republican Party?
You know, I try to kind of steer clear from, because both parties, right? Republicans are I'm more conservative myself. I tend to um, run more. You know, I believe everybody deserves, you know, fair treatment. I don't care who you are, you deserve a fair treatment, whether you're Republican or Democrat. Republicans, I think, tend to be more corporate driven, kind of more um how do I say it with without I try not to be pointed with things. So I think the Republican Party versus the Democrat Party. Democrats tend to run a little more, you know, they're more socially oriented. They you know, like to see benefits given to people, you know, that maybe are in need, or they there's a different thought in how things are handled. Whereas the Republicans are a little more tight pursed. They like to look at things from a more conservative standpoint, I believe. They like to look at it from, you know, how would, if I was running a business, how would it look? Democrats do the same. It's just from a different perspective.
Fair enough. So, it's apparently you are running against both a Democrat and a Republican. So,
Yes, I am.
I don't know anything about these two. So, tell me your thoughts on them.
So, Tammy Holloway, who has been the clerk of court for many years here in Graham County, she is running on the Democrat ticket. Um, her family has been involved in the clerk of court position over the years as well. But Tammy has been in there a very long time. She's got about 32 years of experience in the position. She seems to be very fair. Seems, you know, the people really like her, and she seems to, from what I've seen, do a good job. She absolutely does. As far as the Republican candidate, which is William Wayne, or what is it? William Wayne Adams. I apologize. um, he is very well known in the community as well. He is actually a pastor here in Graham County at one of the local churches. He comes from a long lineage of folks that have been here in the Graham County area. I don't know a whole lot about him. Um, I know, you know, some members of his family, and I hold them in high regard as well. So that's really all I know about the two that I'm up against.
Alrighty, fair enough. I guess let's go over your platform. So, what is your platform?
So my platform is to take my experience working in corporate America, being a customer oriented project manager, and using those skills and talents that I have effectively to run an efficient courtroom to ensure that the people of the county are handled fairly, um, that we have open lines of communication, that the, you know, schedules are maintained, the courtroom is maintained, working with the maintenance folks and working with Graham County as a whole, ensuring that good relationships are maintained and developed with our council, with our judges, with the district attorney. Just, I want to ensure that those that have preceded me that the things that they've put into place that have been effective and efficient are maintained, and that maybe we grow and develop upon them. And then in areas that there may not have been able to be focus, or maybe weren't managed as efficiently, could have been because of timing, could have been, low staff, it doesn't really matter, but go in and make changes that allow the courtroom to be much more efficient, to ensure that all of the parties involved are handled fairly, that they have, that I can be a point where they come to and feel safe and secure in knowing that their needs are met as best as I can within the confines of the office.
All right.
And additionally, I don't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, unaffiliated, everybody is treated fairly in under my management, under my in my office. Everybody will be treated fairly and be given their chance to be heard.
Alrighty, that's pretty. That sounds pretty cool. Are there any type of policies that you would like to that you would try to implement if you get elected?
In all fairness, James, I'm sure that there are. At this point, until I actually get into the office, I wouldn't really feel comfortable stating that certain policies would be adjusted, changed, or brought in, only because I've not had the opportunity as of yet to meet with the justice uh, team, nor have I had an opportunity to meet with any of the clerk of court folks to understand what policies are already in there. I can tell you based on what research I've done that there would be certain things in for Graham County. I mean, this one's going to sound silly, but we have a very small parking lot for our courthouse, and my staff, myself included, would not be allowed to park in that parking lot. We would park in the county parking lot and walk ourselves across the street and to our appropriate offices. There would be, policies that things that would not be tolerated. Everybody would be given a chance to be heard. The policies would be focused around fairness, but until I get in there, I couldn't honestly say what I would change or what I would bring in at this point.
Fair enough. Hold on a second. Um. All right. All right. I got that out of the way. Dang, that's insane. A small parking lot, and you're not even allowed to park there. That's freaking insane.
Well, it's small because the county is small. So the main area of our town is it's old. It's original, right? And the courthouse wasn't designed to handle the number of people that have come into our area, which we're very excited, that we have new blood in here. Our older families, we absolutely love them. They are who created Graham County. But our buildings, our parking lots, our area was at, it's small. So we have to be respectful. It's not that we're not allowed to park there. It's out of respect. We shouldn't park there. We should allow those that are coming in to be heard, have the privilege to park there first. And then we have designated parking, just like anywhere in the country. If you were to work in New York City, or were to work in Reno, Nevada, and you were going to a business, there's designated parking for employees, and there's designated parking for our customers and for those that are coming in to visit us. I would expect the same respect for those here in Graham County that are coming to the courthouse to be heard and seen. Be given that parking, not us.
Fair enough. So I guess my next question is, what is the biggest concern that you have with the Graham County Clerk of Superior Court that's going on right now that you see as a big problem?
You know, I don't believe that there is a huge problem. I think that, Ms. Holloway has run a good office. I think that, it's just really time for a change. I think that it's, I just think it's time for a change. When somebody's been in a really long time, um, I'm thinking it's probably close to, if I'm not, and I may be mistaken on this. I think it's about 16 years, 14 to 16 years, or a little longer, that this candidate has been in office. I just think that maybe the town and the county is ready for a change and a new face, just some new blood to come in and keep going and to make things even better than they currently are running.
Alrighty, fair enough. Based on what I've seen, where do you lie on the the political spectrum? You did mention that you did initially want to run as a Republican, so I'm just curious.
So I am conservative. As I mentioned, I've worked corporate America for the majority of my career. And there's, we have to be fiscally conscious. We have to take care of those that are, responsible for our paychecks. The county would pay my paycheck. And I would expect of myself to honor those that are paying my paycheck. Um, I also, believe that there are some social givings, but I'm more on the conservative platform. I want things done fiscally, responsibly. I want um, things handled tactfully. I want efficiency. Um, as a Republican, as you guys know, more than likely, you can imagine I am a Trump supporter. I do still very strongly support the Republican Party. Um, I believe as I'm a patriot, and I believe that as a patriot, I also have responsibilities, and I would intend to enforce some of those responsibilities within my courtroom and within my office, through, again, fiscal responsibility, ensuring things are done efficiently, making sure that our clients are taken care of and taken care of the way they need to be taken care of in a tactful and responsible way. Um, those are the things that I lean on.
All right, fair enough. Since you did say you were a Republican, have you ever thought about leaving the Republican Party? Because I actually do know quite a number of conservative third parties, specifically the Constitution Party of North Carolina, which I am in contact with. And would you ever consider leaving the Republican Party, for good?
You know, Likely not, but I'm also not one that, closes all the doors without doing my research and investigations myself. I'm an intelligent person that likes to do a little bit of poking and figuring things out before I make a final decision on things.
Alrighty, fair enough. Is there anything else about the Graham County Clerk of Superior Court that we need to know?
I don't believe so. I think I've been pretty straightforward, pretty clear. It's an office that manages and oversees the courtroom, the courthouse, the responsibilities of ensuring that schedules are done and that things need to be in place, to meet timelines and dates and basically they've got a very large responsibility because they are working with the justices and the justice system, and people that are undergoing any kind of a court case are already emotionally stressed, and we need to be able to handle them quickly and get them through efficiently without a lot of delay. That we don't want things backlogged. We don't want things um, being delayed because of something that the office didn't take care of. We need to be sure we're in contact with our judges and in contact with the DA and making sure that everybody's on the same page and that we're moving forward in the best interest of those that are having to be in front of the judge or jury. Making sure that the jury is when there's jury selections, we need to be sure, that those jurors are being effectively scrutinized, and that we're giving the attorneys the opportunity to truly have the time to ensure that they're getting the proper jurors on a case. So, I had the privilege recently of being on jury duty, and I watched um, Miss Holloway and her team work. And it's not an easy task. It's one that holds a tremendous amount of responsibility while they're selecting the jury. And, she has a responsibility to swear people in, to make sure that things are um, that people that are being brought forward that are going to be potential jurors, have been looked at, and that, those that don't show up, she's got to go out and make sure and contact them as to why did you not show up. They've got a lot of responsibility. They handled it well, and I hope that as a clerk of court for this county, that I can do it as well, and if not better. Um, and that I would hope that as the clerk of court, given I were to win that office, that I would be able to work with Ms. Holloway and learn from her as we hand off the role, um, and be able to as mentioned, make the county proud. I want to be able to make the county proud, and yeah, I think that's probably about it. I have a lot of regard for the courtroom. I have a lot of regard for the law. Um, I have a lot of respect for those that are out there trying to manage cases, because there are many. The caseload is not small; it's large, and it's one that requires somebody that can um, look at things, prioritize, and make sure that everything is handled appropriately.
Alrighty. So, yeah, you mentioned jury duty. I'm glad you mentioned it because my dad actually ended up getting like jury duty like a couple months back, actually. But unfortunately, he does not speak English really well, so he was able to get the exemption for it. And I guess explain jury duty for those that don't know.
So jury duty, people over the years have taken it, are starting to, let me say, they're beginning to take it lightly, but it's a huge responsibility. It is one that has been given to the citizens of the United States, that it is essentially our civil duty. There's an old saying that I'd rather be tried by 12 than carried by 6. And it was developed many, many, many hundreds of years ago in a courtroom, that there were a jury of individuals that are essentially, for lack of finding a better word, unfamiliar with the case that's going to be heard. And they're going to fairly assess based on evidence, based on hearing words spoken, making a judgment on an individual or individuals that could essentially change their lives forever. It's either going to find them guilty or not guilty. Um, it's it's a position that many today, myself included, quite honestly, I am a Christian, and God says we're not to judge, but He's also given us that ability to judge in a courtroom. He's saying, basically the way I take it is, we're not one to be judging how a person behaves, acts, or otherwise, but we have discernment, and we can use judgment in a courtroom to find somebody guilty or not guilty of situations, based on facts and based on evidence. Many feel that by being a juror, they're going against what God has asked. It is a civil responsibility. It's one of those things that if you were in a courtroom and you were being heard, you were on trial, you'd want a group of people over there, hopefully listening and paying close attention, to be able to help you win your case and receive a non-guilty verdict. It's when you rely on one, you rely on just the judge, or you rely on the attorneys, Not always are you maybe going to get a fair trial, because everybody has some bias. Everybody has their own opinion, and that doesn't discount anybody, whether it be a juror, a judge. Um, so I encourage everybody, if you can, if you're physically able, if you're mentally able, to exercise your civil duty and be a juror. It's interesting. It's 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 a privilege. So I find it, when I was able to actually do my part. I was called. I You're interviewed by the district attorney or the attorneys that are hearing the case or trying the case. The judge is there listening as well, and they make a decision on whether or not they feel that you're going to be a fair judge of what's going on, whether it be for the defendant or the plaintiff. Because you're questioned by both the defendant's attorney and the plaintiff's attorney. Um, I was not selected because the defendant's attorney felt that maybe I didn't wouldn't be able to give a fair judgment in favor of his client. And primarily it's because I do have law background. I was I've gone through a few trainings with the Sparks Police Department in Nevada. I've also been engaged with the Boulder City Mounted Patrol. So, I guess they felt that I might lean a little more in favor of the law side versus in favor of the individual. So, um, plus I have some legal background. I've worked with corporate attorneys for many years in my career. And I think that may have not boded well for me to sit on the jury for the duration. But it's exciting. I encourage everybody that can, as mentioned, to exercise their civil duty and be a juror. It's kind of exciting. Everybody I've spoken with after they've gone through it has said, "Wow, I never realized what was involved, and I actually enjoyed it." So you do get paid. You get paid, not a lot, but you do get paid for sitting on the jury. And every business in as far as I'm aware, I could be a little misspoken on this one, but as far as I am aware, most, if not all companies provide a day's pay for however many days you're out on jury duty. So you still receive a paycheck, should still receive a paycheck. Um, so there's no reason to not.
That is awesome. So I think earlier you mentioned about there's still a lot of cases open. How many cases are like currently being backlogged to your knowledge?
I don't believe that is actually full public knowledge. It may be. I've not gone and dug. We are 8 months out from the general election. So starting now, actually, the beginning of March, I've started digging a little bit more, trying to learn and determine where we are. As you just asked, what does the docket look like? How many cases are out there and are backlogged? Those are things I'm investigating. I've investigated budget. Now I'm headed toward caseload and getting information. Our courtroom right now is quite busy. I don't know if it's probably national knowledge at this point. The counties, the surrounding counties, and our sheriff, our he's suspended currently at the moment. Is There's a big trial right now where our sheriff is involved and the focus is there. So I don't feel that it is right to go in and disrupt anything, asking questions that are really not of any kind of a priority, until this case is heard and done with. It's just the team would not be able to give me any kind of focus or answer.
Oh my god, somebody got suspended? Oh my god, tell me more about that case.
Well, I don't know. I don't know that I can. It is our sheriff, Brad Hoxit, and it is in the news. Brad Hoxit was served by the DA for, I don't know what, um, essentially it was perceived misconduct. So he's being tried to prove his side of the story, his case, before the Superior Court. And so, that's going on right now. You could probably go, onto the Graham Star and get a little bit of information on that, or you could potentially look at the local news stations in Asheville, Knoxville, and get a little more detail on that. But I don't feel that it would be fair for me to elaborate on that.
Alrighty, that seems pretty fair. I guess when we go to when we talk about the court system for this race, what kind of cases does this court take?
This court hears everything from the Superior Court, which would be criminal, all the way down to civil cases. We hear every case that is could essentially be heard of. We do have a Superior Court jury. We also have the civil juries, which are chosen at time of the cases being presented. But we do have a superior jury, and they are assigned their role for a year, and they hear Superior Court cases, i.e., this one that's going on now with our Graham County Sheriff.
Alrighty. So, let's see here. I guess tell me more about Graham County.
Graham County is actually a lovely county. It truly, truly is. It is here in the Nantahala National Forest, and it is the part of the Appalachian um, Mountains. It's part of the Smoky Mountain range. It's nestled in to kind of like a little valley. Could be construed as a holler, I guess. I don't know. I'm still learning a lot of the Southern language, which I love. I absolutely love. I couldn't be more proud and more happy to be living here in Graham County, particularly in the Robbinsville area. The people of the county are absolutely fabulous. I've met some of the richest people I've ever known, and I don't mean that necessarily monetarily. I mean rich in spirit, rich in charm, rich in knowledge. These people in Graham County, they're amazing. They're very, very smart people. They can tell you anything and everything you probably need to know about gardening. They can tell you everything and anything you probably need to know about the Appalachian history. We have the Cherokee tribe, the Eastern Band of the Cherokee um, tribe here. It's very, very populous here in the Graham County area. Very proud to be, associated with them as well. They are very, very good people. Um, Graham Graham County is just like I say, it's Smoky Mountains. It's mountain folk. It's beautiful, beautiful people. The area itself is beautiful for tourism for people to come through. Um, we have a sweet little town. It's it's not large. I think all of Robbinsville may have. I think last I looked, Robbinsville itself has probably it's under 1,000 people. The county itself has quite a few people, and I would be hesitant to even give a number on that. I know it's grown, and that's why we have a lot of folks that have cabins, and they are part time here in the summer, part time where they come from, whether it be Florida, Arizona, California, wherever. They go home in the winter months. They come home here in the spring, summer months and have cabins. We do have a lot of B&Bs. We have a lot of, we have several motels, hotels now. A lot of, like I say, inns. Um, we have, we don't offer a lot as far as big box shopping, but we have a lot of artisans, quaint little small businesses that offer everything from mechanics to apparel to um, little trinkets for the house. I can't say enough about us. We are just a lovely, lovely place to be. We're centered between Murphy, North Carolina, and we are then on the other side. We have Bryson City toward going toward Waynesville. We're very, very close to the border of Tennessee and Georgia. So if you, we're about 30 minutes to Andrews and about 45 minutes to Murphy, and then another 10 minutes and you're in Tennessee or Georgia, either direction. South Carolina is not that far either. So if that kind of helps, we're Western North Carolina.
That's pretty good to hear, and I guess that does explain your Republican leaning because Western North Carolina, from what I have heard, is very conservative compared to the rest of the state. A significant portion of the state is still, I would arguably say, is more conservative than not. But yeah, that's pretty interesting.
It's a great place. I've lived in very large cities and I've lived in, smaller cities, in a rural setting. And um, eh, where I'm out of is Reno, Nevada. I lived in Reno, Nevada for 30 years and then moved to Las Vegas for a very, very short, just over a year stay. Moved to Brazelton, Georgia, and then came here. I'm a mountain girl through and through. I love the mountains. I love the country. Um, I love the farm life, ranch life with, livestock, horses, and my dogs. You know, living this life with my husband, who's a very, very good man. Um, he just was running for Graham County Sheriff, and didn't quite make it through the primaries, but he at least gave it a shot. And in some ways, I'm kind of grateful that that he didn't get sheriff. It's a very, very high risk position, and there's a lot going on in the county with the shifting of sheriffs and such right now. So. Um, yeah, it's a privilege and an honor to live in this area, and it's a privilege and an honor to have gotten to meet so many of the very good people here, whether it be, the those that are we have people here that are over 100 years old, and there's quite a few of them. Longevity is just amazing to me in this town, and it's it's so neat to have people recognize you. It's like, do you remember the program Cheers, where they'd go into the bar and say, "Hey, Norm." Well, you can walk into Elder's Ace Hardware or into Ingles, and people are like, "Well, hi, Ray. Hi, Mitch. How are you? How have you been?" Or you can reach out, to other folks. "How are you, Jane or Gertrude?" And it's it's just you couldn't ask for a better place to live.
That's awesome. So you mentioned that your husband attempt to run as a Republican for a sheriff, but didn't go so well. Maybe your husband might consider joining third party as well.
He may. You never know. He's a man of his own, and we see pretty much eye to eye on most everything. He's very conservative as well, and he'd like to see some positive change and shift, not only in the courtroom, but in the county as well. We'd like to see some things done to to make to bring Graham County, with all its many positives. We'd like to see things brought in that would improve life for our children. Some things for them to do that they would feel safe. We would feel safe them doing. We'd like to see. We've got a good educational system. We've got a strong um, sense around our children as far as supporting them in sports and doing things that help better them. But we'd also like to see the community cleaned up a little bit. Maybe get some of the things that really are not the positives, cleaned up. And we hope that whoever becomes sheriff or whoever becomes clerk of court, that they will work collaboratively to help make Graham County even better.
That's awesome. So you mentioned that you lived in Nevada for a long time. How was that?
I love Nevada. It will forever be in my heart. It will forever be a part of who I am. And where I lived in Reno is very similar in many ways to Graham County. Um, it's desert for the most part, but I was high country, so we had a lot of the, similar, I guess, vegetation. I was not far. When you're in Reno, you're not far from the area of Lake Tahoe, Sacramento. A lot of folks are able to orient that way. We are very. We're an hour and a half flight time from Vegas. We were as where I lived. I lived in a small community known as Lemon Valley. Um, but Nevada has your very hot desert, which is down southern regions, and then you have the northern area, which butts right up against Northern California, and it's quite mountainous. It's many lakes between the area I was in and the California area that we bumped up against. Um, the thought process, they're a Republican. Where I was at was a very Republican oriented area of the state. And so for me, this was like leaping from a 30-year home into a new home that was very comfortable because of similar thoughts and behaviors.
Alrighty. You mentioned that you lived in Georgia for quite a bit. How was that?
I lived in Georgia for only just a few months. Georgia is Georgia. It's a great place for those that are there. It was not a good fit for me. I couldn't elaborate on exactly why. There's a lot of people, a lot of traffic. Something that I don't enjoy. I like going and being able to go, shop in some stores that we don't have accessible to us here, but that's at a minimal. Georgia's a gorgeous state. It really truly is. And, it's their Southern hospitality and Southern style is wonderful. I can't say negative about it. It just wasn't a place for me. I much prefer where I'm at here in the mountains in Graham County. And it fits my lifestyle that I had become accustomed to in Nevada.
That is awesome. So, how's the campaign going right now?
I think it's actually going quite well. Every day while I'm at work, I have people come in and talk with me, which I have to say, without shadow of a doubt, thank you to Elders Ace Hardware for allowing me to be me and to have the flexibility that if somebody were to come in and ask me a question about my campaign, that I could honestly and openly answer them without feeling that I would be uh, impacting elders. They're a wonderful company. Um, I can be out at the stores, I can be at the gas station, and people are supporting me. They're giving me a lot of support, which I'm ever so grateful for. Um, do I stand a chance to win? I hope. And that's my goal, obviously. um, and I'm doing my very best to manage day to day life and get out there and do my campaign as well. As mentioned just a little while ago, we're 8 months away from general election, so now I feel it's appropriate to actually get out there, start shaking more hands, start speaking to more people, going door to door, and having conversations. This area, Graham County, a lot of people are not, excuse me, not on the internet. They're just not. They're not. They're people that are old, and I don't mean this disrespectfully. They're old school, and I appreciate that. I truly, honestly do. So social media isn't always where they get their information. It's best to get out and actually speak to them face to face. They respect people that do that. because that's how you build relationships. That's how you build trust, is with face-to-face interaction. And social media is grand for getting the message out. It's another avenue. The younger folks really grasp it and engage with it. The older people um, would prefer the face to face. And so now that I'm this, we're this close to the general election, now's the time to get out there and start getting that face to face interaction, using social media to reach out to the younger people, but also getting out there and reaching out to those that maybe aren't on computers, maybe don't get the newspaper every day or every week. So that's where we are.
That's awesome. I guess since we are on the talk of social media, do you have any social media right now, or?
I do. I'm on Facebook. I do have Instagram. I don't myself, things are so vulnerable, particularly when it comes to technology, that I don't put a whole lot out there, just because you don't know what you don't know. But I am on Facebook. I do have a Facebook page for my campaign, and that's Rhae Millsaps for Clerk of Court at gmail.com. And I do have my telephone number out there as well. If anybody wanted to sincerely call and talk with me, I'd be more than happy. They can text me. Um, as you and I mentioned last night, or talked last night, James, I've been, as are many right now, given the current state of the country with the Iran-Israel confrontation, and things that are shifting and changing with tariffs and such. I'm being inundated with text messages from uh, WinRed, and place things that really aren't, I feel, aren't truly legit. So if a text message comes in and I don't get back to someone right away, it's only because I get 30, 40 text messages a day that are spam. So a phone call works really, really well. I'd rather have a vocal, and or getting onto my page and sending me a message. I will respond as quickly as I possibly can to anybody that has a question for me.
That's awesome. Tell me what your Instagram is, so that way, I can link it in the description.
Actually, I'm not on it very often, so I'd have to actually, James, go out and get that information, and then I could send it over to you. I don't have it at my fingertips.
That's all right. I have found your Facebook, and yeah, it does say conservative Republican, but I think you should consider changing that to conservative unaffiliated, since you're not running as a Republican in this election.
I will do so. I will do so. Thank you for the suggestion. Originally, so that everybody understands why that is the way it is. When I went and filed my notice of candidacy, I was still very much under the impression that I was running on a Republican ballot. It wasn't until December 2nd, when I went in and actually was going to file my application for the clerk of court, that I learned that I was unaffiliated. Um, it took me by absolute utter surprise, because I wouldn't, it wasn't something that I would have done naturally. But as it ended up, it's fine. I'm on the ballot, and like I said earlier in our dialogue, um, I listen to everybody fairly. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, independent, unaffiliated. Everybody has the right to have their voice heard and their opinion heard. It doesn't necessarily mean I have to accept everybody's opinion, or accept, uh, negative conversation, but it does mean that I am fair, and I give everybody all every opportunity to speak with me. So I will, as a suggestion, I will go in and make the change on that. As an unaffiliated conservative, definitely will make that change. But just to give you some context as to why it was on there, I was under the impression that I was going to be running on the Republican ballot.
Fair enough. And I guess my next question for you is: do you get flack from Republicans talking about, "Oh, you're going to be the wasted vote," or some BS statement that the Democrats and the Republicans make often because they're entitled to your vote or whatever?
Never. I have not once heard that. I've actually heard quite the opposite. I've heard people that, yeah, I've heard it from both those that, because I'm running unaffiliated, people have come up to me and said, I really don't associate with the Democrat side or the Republican side. So I'm excited that there's an unaffiliated candidate because I try to vote for who I feel is best for the job, not because I'm voting for a party. So, yeah, I get a lot of positive response running as an unaffiliated candidate.
That's awesome. So, how do you plan on winning those voters? Across, how do you plan on getting the votes to win this election?
Being me, going out and having honest, genuine conversations with people, allowing them to ask me the hard questions and answering to the best of my ability, letting them know about my background, letting them, people have asked me, do you have experience? Well, no, not necessarily as the clerk of court or in a courtroom per se, but here's why I feel I'm, qualified for the position. And once they hear that, they understand. And the majority of the time, I've had folks tell me, you've won my vote. I don't believe in I believe in transparency. I believe being honest. And if anybody wanted to check facts, I'd be more than happy for them to allow to check facts on me. So that's how I intend. I intend to get out there, talk to the people, give them the opportunity to ask me the hard questions, give me the opportunity to share my history and my background, and hope to win their vote.
That's awesome. So, what has been the hardest question you've been asked so far?
Well, I think the hardest question I've been asked so far, James, was by you, and that was, why did I run? Why am I running as an unaffiliated party? I don't mean that in a silly way, but it really is, because I never had expected to do, as mentioned several times, to run as an unaffiliated. So to have that answer is one that I had to actually, dig a little deep and figure out, how would I answer that question? Because like I said, it's not something I would have naturally done. But I'm proud to be running as an unaffiliated at this point. I'm not forsaking the Republican Party by any stretch of that, but I am definitely honored to be running as unaffiliated, to give everybody the opportunity to feel like they have the ability to not be judged and they can vote freely. Because isn't that really what we're based on in our country? Is it's our right still to vote, and to vote for who we believe is right for the party, not because, or right for the position, not for the party. The parties are great. They serve a purpose. Um, and I don't discredit them. I don't disrespect them in any way. But I feel that as our given right, we have the right to our opinion. We have the right to make decisions. We have the right to exercise those things that I just mentioned. And the vote is what gives us that. Nobody has the right to take that away from us. So if you are a Republican but you prefer the Democrat candidate in this case, then by all means, please exercise your right and vote for that Democrat. Or if you feel that the unaffiliated person is where you stand and you believe in what that person stands for, then please exercise your vote and vote for that individual. Don't feel pressured by anybody to vote based on how you were raised or what your granddaddy or grandma, held in regard, because the parties have changed. They have changed dramatically over the years. You've got everything from a very far right to a very far left and a whole lot in between. And each party stands for something a little bit different. And over the years, it's evolved where they stand for things that it's hard to decide whether you want to even remain with a party. And I hear that a lot. But I also hear a lot that people, they were raised Democrat. Their great granddaddy or their granddaddy or their daddy, you know, voted Democrat. So they feel obligated to stay with that party. But when they're in that ballot booth, I would hope that they feel safe to vote for who they feel is right. Um, it's hard. It's hard because we, as a nation, we've been taught that there's only two parties, when in reality, there are several parties, and everybody has the right, as mentioned, to make a decision on who they want, regardless of party.
That's awesome. Have you gotten endorsed by like anyone so far?
I have. I've been endorsed by some very well-known um, individuals within Graham County who I feel I out of respect, I won't share names or anything, but I am being supported by some very um, well-known folks in the area.
Would you be open to getting some endorsed by some third parties?
I would be. I absolutely would be.
Alrighty. Is it all right if I like try if I get into like contact with them after this episode's done, so that way that I can tell them about your campaign and your story and all that, so that way like
I would. I'd be honored, James. I would absolutely be honored. Thank you.
yeah, no, yeah, you're welcome. Because with some of the unaffiliated candidates I have interviewed in the past, I have told them about some of the third parties, but I don't think anything came of it, and it made me so disappointed because I really want third parties and unaffiliates to like come together. I want people across the spectrum to be able to like work together regardless of political ideology, and that's part of the reason why I'm doing this. I actually work with political parties from across the spectrum because I believe in third partyism. That's kind of basically my ideology, and I believe that third parties and unaffiliates deserve to have representation, especially with what the Democrats and the Republicans have done with ballot access over the past few years in regards to third parties and unaffiliated. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Okay, I guess my last question for you is there anything else you want to talk about? Anything I've missed?
I would say, James, you've done a thorough job. I think that I feel heard, and I feel like I've been given the opportunity to share my thoughts in my platform. I guess the question I would have for you is, do you have any other questions based on what I've shared for me?
Hmm. Well, hmm. So, since, even though you are a conservative, would you be open to getting endorsed by a moderate party, like say the Ford Party? Because you've seemed pretty moderate with some of your responses, and I think Ford might like that.
Yes. Yes. The answer is yes.
Alrighty, that's pretty cool. With that being said, that might be. I think that's about it for this episode of the Political Freedom Fighters podcast. If y'all have enjoyed this video, please hit the like button down below, hit the comment for any suggestions that you may have, and definitely click the subscribe button below so that way you can be like a member of the subscriber squad or whatever, and hit the notification bell so you can be notified on any new videos coming up for the Political Freedom Fighters podcast. And with that being said, that's going to be it. I hope you all have enjoyed, and I'll see you all later.